A father gets a cold and fever when his skin suddenly turns purple. A few days later, his son doesn't recognize him. To say that life can change in an instant, we all know that it is possible. But being confronted with it is a completely different reality. When Alex Lewis, originally from England, caught a simple cold, he was living without the slightest worry in the world. A few days later, her son was afraid to give her a hug because he had totally changed. Having the best day possible is probably what many of us want to do every time we wake up. Being able to do what we are passionate about and what we love makes life more enjoyable and is definitely worth living. In 2013, Father Alex Lewis was leading a normal life. He had a career, enjoyed going out with his friends and going on a trip to the bar, playing golf, but most importantly spending time with his son. So when he caught a cold like so many others, no one worried. His partner Lucy Townsend thought it wasn't anything bad. Soon, Alex will recover and return to family life as usual. But this simple cold would then prove to lead to surgical complications, including several amputations, writes The Guardian. Alex suddenly had a fever and soon discovered the presence of blood in his urine while going to the bathroom. But very quickly, external signs also began to manifest themselves. His skin began to change and his health deteriorated sharply. Everyone around him agreed, it was far from just a cold. Alex had contracted a streptococcal infection that caused sepsis and organ failure. And very quickly, he was about to die. You can get seriously ill when these bacteria reach the bloodstream, sepsis, or cause infections in the deep layers of the skin and up to the muscles. Streptococci produce toxic substances, called toxins, that degrade tissues. These symptoms have justified the popular name, killer bacteria. This disease is life-threatening and it is important to receive prompt and appropriate care. The infection is treated with antibiotics. But Alex's case could not be cured by antibiotics. I called an ambulance and within 8 minutes they were there. At the hospital, I was told to say goodbye to him. His kidneys were letting go and they were going to put him on a ventilator, says Lucy, Alex's girlfriend. After a week in a coma, Alex woke up in the hospital, but with a big change. As the infection spread so much in his body, doctors saw no alternative but to amputate several of his limbs. They were also forced to remove part of his mouth. I remember seeing my legs in the hospital and how they were getting blacker and darker, he says. The darkness reached the waist. I don't remember seeing my left arm in this state, but I remember my legs very clearly. 10 days after Alex thought he was suffering from a cold, he had lost both his legs and both arms. Due to his change in appearance, it was difficult for him to approach his son Sam. Alex has almost no mouth, and his son does not even dare to give him a kiss or a hug. While he was an energetic person, Alex now needs help with everything. This situation has led him and his family to set up a fund to get financial help to buy the devices and aids Alex needs to get around. In 2016, he was able to collect £20,000 to be able to buy a pair of arms so that he could eat more easily and do things with both hands. Now, years later, Alex says losing both of his legs is the best thing that could have happened to him. Several operations were performed on his face and around his mouth to be able to reconstruct his appearance as much as possible. The temporary shreds were really painful, and I remember waking up and seeing this ridiculous piece of skin hanging on my face and thinking something was wrong, he told British Metro. So I had 6 or 7 surgeries on my face, because the only place they could take the skin I had left of my body was my shoulder. As soon as I put my lips back, they had to reopen the scar line and remove the oily skin to make it look okay. Today, Alex still lives with his love Lucy, and their son. I know it sounds crazy, but I think that year was the best year of my life. I've lived these last 4 years more than I have in the previous 33, and I've realized how much I love Lucy and Sam. There are so many things I regret not doing when I had arms and legs, but I won't allow it to happen again. I wouldn't change anything, not for a second. The best thing about Alex's incredible story is that he was able to rebuild his relationship with his son and says she is stronger than ever. He accepts everything now, and all I'm doing is demonstrating that disability is not an obstacle, you just have to figure out a way to make everything work.